Welcome to Turning the Tide. This is Candace Salima coming at you from the heart of the Rocky Mountains. And today we are interviewing author Jamie Freveletti. Did I say that right, Jamie?
You sure did. Thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. Jamie is a trial attorney, martial artist, and a runner. She has crewed for an elite ultramarathon runner at 50-mile, 100-mile, and 24-hour races across the country, and holds a black belt in aikido, a Japanese martial art. I have to say right there, Jamie, I can't believe anyone can run that long. That is stunning.
Actually, I'm a distance runner. The ultra in the family is my husband, and you're right. It is stunning.
Yeah, and you know, I read your bio before I read the book, the Ninth Day, and that's the book that we're going to be talking about today. And I thought, oh, look at that. The main character is an ultra marathon runner. Which is a good thing, I got to say. She needed it.
Yeah, she sure does.
Yeah, anyway, so let me go on with your bio. I'm sorry, I sidetracked there. Anyway, so after law school, she lived in Geneva, Switzerland, while obtaining a diploma in international studies. Back in Chicago, she represented clients in areas ranging from class actions, from mass salmonella poisoning to securities fraud. That's pretty broad there, Jamie.
Yeah, it was mostly defense, so of large corporations. Yeah, and you know, you get the whole gamut when it's large corporations like that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, and so you have 4 books out now, right? Do I have that?
3.
3, okay. And The Ninth Day is the latest. You have Running Dark was your second, and Running from the Devil was the first. Do I have that right?
That's right.
Okay. I got to tell you, Jamie, you are one of my new favorite authors. I'm going to go pick up the other 2 books today.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
So, you know, I'm an author myself, and so when I read, I love to read, and I put my author side to the side when I read, because I don't like to have it messed up.
Right.
Because reading is my greatest pleasure. And your book, it didn't matter, author side, whatever. It was well-written, brilliant book, very, very suspenseful. And I have to tell you, I pride myself on being able to figure things out, but I sure didn't.
You didn't? Oh, good.
Oh, you shocked me with the armadillos, I got to tell you.
I got to tell you, it's hard to do that these days, you know, to keep it going long enough where people can't figure it out, because everyone's so smart, and we're all readers, you know, so we're good at this.
Yes, we are, and I'll tell you, I love not being able to figure it out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, to me that is a sign of a brilliant writer, because I'm actually pretty good. I usually have it figured out within the first 3 or 4 pages, but no, not this time. Not this time at all.
And you know, honestly, Candace, in all fairness to thriller writers, most thrillers, you do know who the bad guy is. I mean, mysteries, no, they're kind of the puzzle. But in thrillers, you can still know who the bad guy is and have a great read. So
exactly.
Yeah, so it's not as required in a thriller, but it's really fun when it works out that way.
Well, the great mystery here is what is causing the disease, what's causing the killing of the marijuana crop for the drug cartel. So let me just read the backliner real fast so people know what we're talking about here.
Okay.
It says, okay, the main character in Jamie's books is Emma Caldridge, and she is a biochemist, just so you know. So she's in all 3 books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just so I got that right. Hiking in Arizona, biochemist Emma Caldridge inadvertently interrupts the operations of dangerous traffickers in human cargo and is chased south into the arms of millionaire drug merchants. Suddenly, a prisoner of Mexico's most feared cartel, Emma makes a shocking discovery in the marijuana fields outside, I don't know how to say that.
Ciudad Juarez.
Thank you. Plants rotting with a flesh-eating toxin that causes a truly horrible death within 9 days of exposure, and there is no antidote. Now, here's the thing. The cartel thinks the U.S. caused it, and Emma has to figure it out. And just so you know, in case you haven't read Jamie's first 2 books, Emma works on occasion for is it a Defense Department?
Yeah, it's a contract security company for the Defense Department. So it would be more like a Blackwater, but a good Blackwater. It's called Darkview.
Well, you know what? Blackwater had its good points too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You know, they're not all bad. I have friends that were in Blackwater, and yes, there were some rogue operatives, but most of them were very, very good.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. So, okay. So here's the thing about this book, people. I'm going to tell you right now. She keeps you guessing on the source of the disease and what the disease is. And when you identified it and that it was this very well-known disease on steroids, because it is.
Yeah, yeah. It was a lot of fun to write this book because
I can imagine.
Yeah, I just thought, this is such a cool disease. Hadn't heard about it in a long time. And lately I've been doing a lot of research. I'm working on Emma number 4, that's the working title. I have no title right now. And same thing. I found a disease that's unusual, but we've seen happen again. So I think it'll be fun.
Well, and that's the thing that's intriguing, for authors, for instance, is to find one piece of something and then you just write an entire incredible story around it. Yeah. Now, Jamie, here's the thing that's very interesting about you. 3 books out and you are tagged by Robert Ludlum's estate to write the next in the Covert One series. And for people who don't know what that is, I'm sure you know who Jason Bourne is from the Bourne Identity movies. And so are you writing the next Jason Bourne?
I'm not writing the next Jason Bourne. Robert Ludlum did another series as well called Covert One, and that's the one I'm writing. They are a kind of a contract security group, but it's a covert operatives in America, and it's really fascinating. And before he died, he created these characters. So, yeah, they tapped me to write the next one, which was quite an honor, I got to tell you. It's quite an honor. Yeah,
huge. Huge. I mean, I have another friend who is an author, Brandon Sanderson, and he was tapped to finish the Wheel of Time series for Robert Jordan when Robert Jordan died.
Oh, my goodness.
So I am very familiar, I believe, what you are going through right now.
Yeah, when they first told me, what had happened is they'd been looking at a bunch of people, about a bunch of authors, and I was it was 10 authors, and then it was 3. And, Running from the Devil won Best First Novel from the International Thriller Writers.
Yes, it did.
So I happened to be there at this huge banquet. It was, oh my gosh, you could not believe it. Sandra Brown was there, David Baldacci was huge, Ken Follett. And I go up there to accept the award, and I'm kind of out of my mind, right? So I get into into as you can imagine.
Yes.
I think I thanked everyone appropriately, but I'm not quite sure. Although my agent says, no, you sounded very appropriate. But we got to the bathroom, and I was jumping up and down and trying to fix my makeup. I was crying, and my agent stops jumping and says, "How do you feel about Robert Ludlum?" I was like, well, actually right now I'm not thinking about it. She said, well, you're down to 3. You're one of 3, and I thought you better know. And so
after one book.
Yep, and then 3 months or 4 months later, the book won another award called the Barry at the BoucherCon conference. And again, I get off the stage. I'm talking to my agent. She comes running up and she said, the estate of Robert Ludlum is, at the bar and they'd like to have a drink with you. They flew into San Francisco. And then I knew. When they said, she said the agent for the estate was there, I kind of figured out what was going to happen. And it was really, really exciting.
Well, okay. And tell me, how did that change your everyday life? I mean, because you are an attorney and you are a runner. And
Well, one thing about being an attorney, and anyone who's listening or hears this is, an attorney knows this, and maybe dentists do as well. I think dentists work in 15-minute increments, and you get used to billing time, and time becomes very important. So I think my attorney background helped because I've been able to kind of sit down and every day schedule out my day, which is, ideally not the way most writers work, I suppose. Most of you, when you want to become a writer full time, you think, oh, I'll have all this free time. But, it certainly hasn't been my experience.
Or mine as well. I mean, it never happens. I don't think it will.
Oh, good. Because I was kind of thinking, well, is it me? I mean, is it just me?
No.
But, so I'm good at that. But also after Ludlum, I have the contract with HarperCollins for the Emma series. And then I had Ludlum with Grand Central. And it just, something had to give. So I put my legal license on what's called inactive status. It basically
means, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah. So it basically means I turned it off. Now, to turn it back on, I'll have to pay $500, which isn't the end of the world. But once I turned it off, I was able to not have to do the continuing legal education and a lot of the other things that are required. And I was able to focus on the Ludlum and the next Emma 4. So basically, now I'm a professional full-time writer.
Yes, you are. And
It's so wonderful.
oh, yeah, it is.
Don't you love writing?
I do. Jamie, it is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. Everything that I do is to the end of making that me able to carve time out to write.
Yeah, it makes my day. And I feel like I don't know what I did before I did it. I've been doing it for quite a few years now, just for myself, of course, to begin with. But now I don't know how I would get through the day. It's kind of it's the most freeing couple of hours of my day where my mind can just go anywhere, and I love it.
Oh, yeah. Now, listen, this is one of the things that caught my eye right away. On the front cover of your book, you have a quote, a plug by Steve Berry. He calls you one of the top thriller writers working today. Now, Steve, I've interviewed him twice on my show. He's at the top.
He's at the top. And you know, Lee Child gave me a blurb for Running from the Devil, and Tess Gerritsen as well. And I feel,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I can say about the thriller writing community, I mean, the fact that these such well-known authors, especially Lee and Tess, who got behind a brand new author, I was debut, you know, they didn't know who I was. And, you know, HarperCollins sent them the book to review, and that was so nice of them. And I really feel like with Steve, I was really nervous when they sent The Ninth Day to Steve, because The Ninth Day, I really poured my heart and soul into that book. I was almost obsessed with writing that book. And I thought, oh, God, I wonder if he's going to find it as kind of the pacing the way I felt it was going. And he did, and I was so relieved.
Oh, he did. Well, you know, he was an attorney too, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, I can see why he loved it. I do.
Well, thank you.
I have to tell everyone out there, go out and buy The Ninth Day. And when you do, then you're going to be running back to the store to get Running from the Dark and the other one that's escaping my mind at the moment.
Yeah, it's Running from the Devil and Running Dark.
Sorry, I just combined them, didn't I?
You know, it's a lot of running.
Well, gee, I can't imagine why. Okay, now I love your website. It's jamiefreveletti.com, and you spell Jamie's last name F as in Frank, R-E, V as in Victor, E, L-E-T-T, and that's T as in Tom, folks, I.com. You have a journal on there, and that is fabulous because I went through and I have lots of questions. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. You mentioned in your journal that thriller writers have a fascination with death.
They do.
Explain that and explain why that shouldn't be scary.
You know, I was up late one night and I was thinking about my own background and a couple of the writers I knew. And I don't mention names, but I do mention, you know, one who kind of lives on the edge constantly and one who actually thought he would die by a certain age.
Wow.
Yeah, spent his whole life with that thought. And, you know, I actually asked him, I said, you know, wow, what is it? How, you know, I was thinking later, how does that change the way you live? And so I was kind of like, wow, isn't that odd? And then I realized, oh, my God, I'd had this dream, this recurring, awful, horrible dream when I was young. And I wasn't scared in the dream, and I wasn't scared when I was having it. But now when I read it back, I think, oh, God, my poor mother, she must have been freaking out. But, and I started to realize that I had the same kind of thought process, you know, that life is kind of hanging by a thread. And so I think it's good for thriller writers because it adds to our pacing and it makes us realize that kind of as you say, suspense and whatever goes on with a novel to make you kind of grasp the idea that death is around the corner. And you have to be able to write that as a thriller writer. And I think one of the reasons we do it so well is that we're a little dark. I mean, to think that you're going to die at a certain age or have the kind of dream that I had or live really on the edge is you know, they're all kind of I don't want to die kind of thoughts. All very, very aware of the fact that we're on this earth for so many years. So I just thought it was very interesting, and I ended up writing that journal entry, and boy, a lot of people have read that entry.
Yes, well, it was really good. I went through, you know, I had a limited amount of time, but I went through as many of them as I could. I love that. That's a brilliant idea to have that on there. I've interviewed authors where I couldn't find anything, and I only came up with like 4 or 5 questions, and then I'd have to stretch the interview. So this was very refreshing. You know, it's really interesting. I don't think I'm going to die. From the time I was a little kid, I'm like, I'm not going to die. Don't ask me where that comes from, Jamie. But I'm guessing that's why I write suspense and not thrillers.
That's great. I'm never going to die. You know, I have teenagers, and they don't think they're going to die either.
Yeah, but I'm 48, and I still think I'm not going to die. You know, I'm going to have a very brutal wake-up call one day.
Or maybe not. Maybe one day you'll wake up, you'll be 400 years old. Like, who was 400 or 500? Abraham? One of them in the Bible.
Oh, you know, Adam himself lived to over 900. Abraham was 400. Yeah, they lived a long time.
They lived a long time, so maybe.
I don't know how we got chipped. That's too funny. Okay, now, you also blogged about, and this was, I was very intrigued by this. You blogged about a distinct bias in literary circles with the ratio of men to women. And so what I was wondering is if you would explain what you mean by that, because I was going through all the authors that I associate with, and it's a large ratio of women to men. I mean, way more women than men. But then you get into, say, fantasy, and it's more men than women. You get into thrillers, it's more men than women. So explain about that bias. Is it a deliberate bias? Is it a by happenstance bias?
You know, you mean about thriller writers often being men?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know it existed, actually, and I'm not so sure where it's coming from. I honestly think I get a lot of emails from readers who will say, I don't really read thrillers by women, but, or they'll say, but I loved yours and I'm going to buy more. And they always end up with that lovely ending, which to me, at first I kind of put it off to the side and I thought, oh, I don't know what they're talking about. They don't read thrillers from women. But then I realized, you're right, mystery. I mean, I always read women in mystery, and women in mystery write some amazing mystery. You think of Agatha Christie, you think of Anne Perry. I mean, it's kind of female dominated, and the women I know who write mystery are they're in it's such a great group of women. And the thriller writers, when I first started, I actually had one of the large houses that shall remain nameless actually say to my agent, we're looking for a female thriller writer. There aren't any out there. And I remember thinking, well, that's strange, because I was unpublished at the time. Now I think what it is a little bit, see, when you read The Ninth Day, and if you read Running from the Devil, Running Dark, Emma Coleridge deals with men the way I always think women deal with everything in their lives. I mean, Emma's pretty competent. She's not bitter. She doesn't know how to shoot a gun. She's not like a superwoman. She learns all these different things in each book. But she really deals with men eye to eye, and I'm wondering if they're just kind of mistaking that protagonist.
Well, that's what I'm wondering too.
Yeah, because there's hints of romance between certain characters in the book, but there's no real romance. It's really a thriller. When she has to pick up a rocket-propelled grenade, she does. I mean, she's not afraid. She's not afraid to do these things, but she's also kind of like the women I know. So I'm not sure why certain readers will do that, but I have to say I've got confidence in the readers because they're writing me and saying, I don't usually read women thriller writers, but I picked up yours and now I'm hooked. So one thing about readers you got to love is that they're willing to give you a shot.
And that's true, and it's really funny. Candace, the reader, is very different from Candace, the author. I have to be really, really honest.
Okay.
I give authors the first page.
I know. We're a little bit harder on each other, aren't we?
Well, it's crazy. It's like I look at it and the first paragraph, here's your first paragraph. And I read it. I'm like, oh, good. I'm going to actually enjoy this one. This is your first paragraph. Emma Coleridge sat in the tunnel and watched the rats gather around her. That is a great first sentence, by the way.
Thank you.
Their eyes glowed when they bisected the small beam of moonlight pinpointing through the jagged seam in the ceiling. Sacks of marijuana lined the walls and metal rails ran across the floor. Emma heard the voices of her pursuers whispering to each other in Spanish outside the tunnel's entrance. Now, I read that, and I'm like, oh, she can write, and that's good. I'm going to read the whole book.
Yeah, and if you have listeners who are also writers or unpublished or looking to write.
I do, both. I have both.
Yeah, I bet you do. You know what? I don't know, Candace, maybe back me up on this, but don't you feel like if you're writing to an agent these days or an editor, you had better come through on that first page?
You have to.
It's weird that they don't. You feel like, oh, I've got this whole book to develop everything, but they don't. No. They don't. You don't get that. So I've kind of learned that pretty early on, and I always try to make that happen.
Well, and the reason is because there are tens of thousands of authors out there.
Yeah, and good ones. But,
yes.
Yeah.
And books, hundreds of thousands of books that come out every year.
Right.
Of every genre. And you better be able to grab the reader. Now, for me, I read both fiction and nonfiction because I love to learn. And I learn just as much in fiction as I do in nonfiction. And for instance, in your book, I'm not going to give it away, but boy, did I learn about armadillos.
Yeah,
and crazy people.
And crazy people, and it's. I usually do research on the areas. I always have Emma in failing nations. So she was in the first book. It was Colombia. She's down in the Colombian jungle that's running from the devil, and she's on the run from the paramilitary group that's trying to get her hostage. They down the plane. They took everyone else hostage. She's thrown free. And she realizes, the Colombian jungle's mined. It's got, I think it's number 2 in landmines behind Africa. And so all those facts show up in the book because I had to explain just how dangerous the jungle, you would think it's not animals, although it is, it's humans.
They got big old spiders down there, Jamie.
Yeah, they got that golden frog. They've got this golden toad or something that if it shoots you, you're dead.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the size, it's like an inch big, this toad. And
it's like step on the landmine, get got by the golden frog, which will be worse.
Yeah, take your pick. And Emma knows this, so she tracks behind them, and she's going to disrupt their plans. Now, in the second one, she's in Somalia, and I did some research for that as well. And Somalia was just filled with interesting things.
That's a rough country.
It's really rough country. And then for running... for the ninth day, it was Ciudad Juarez, but she pretty much crosses the border fairly quickly. But I don't think it takes. I don't have to say much anymore about what's going on in Mexico. It's been
no, you don't.
No, it's been pretty horrendous, honestly.
And it's getting worse every day. That is one of the things that I'm actually very conversant on.
Yeah.
And when you kicked her over into Mexico right away, I was like, oh man.
Yeah. I was going to have her stay, and I may do another piece with her in Mexico just because I was reading. Well, I think it was in The Nation, the article I was reading was called The War Next Door. Yeah. And, it's really, yesterday I was reading about Acapulco. And, I used to love Acapulco. I go there all the time.
Well, it used to be safe, but it's not anymore.
It's not. And they were talking about how horrible it is for the economy that people are starting to kind of run. And they said Acapulco is one of the most dangerous cities in the world now. And I thought, wow, when did that happen?
Well, when the drug cartels took over the nation, as you know, and I think it's the Zetas that have taken over Acapulco. I could be wrong.
They're at Cancun. So there's a little less problem in Cancun because the Zetas all handle it. Apparently Acapulco's up for grabs because somebody just died. You might know his name, but I didn't recognize the name. Late, it begins with an L. Late. Yeah. There's a guy that just died, so of course.
Do you know what? I don't pay attention to their names because their lifespan is so short.
Well, that's what they also said in the article. They said these people are dying at it used to be several years before there would be turnover. Now you can reach the top of the organization in months.
And they're right. They're absolutely right. It is. Yeah. I used to know the names, and I have to be honest, Jimmy, I pay no attention anymore because another one died. Yeah. They're dropping like flies, and they also multiply like flies.
And so it's very interesting, and it was a great place to put the ninth day, close to home.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's close to home.
And very current.
Yeah, and I used to go to Mexico up until just recently all the time in various areas, mostly Riviera Maya lately. But so I loved it, and it was interesting to put the book there. Now the next one, I'm going out to a different location again, and I'm kind of trying to switch it up a little bit more on the next one. It's going to be a very unusual kind of book for Emma. I wanted to put her, she's a scientist, so I wanted to put her into a situation where she's a scientist, but she encounters things that on their face cannot be explained by science. And I wanted to see how a scientist would address these issues. And boy, have I learned a lot about physics.
That's one of the funnest things about being an author. There's nothing you don't get to learn about.
Yeah.
Nothing. You get to expand your knowledge in all ways, and constantly you're looking for a way to twist it.
Twist it into something scary. And, there's not a lot going on. So it was the fourth one, I'm shipping out a portion of the manuscript today to HarperCollins. And this one's very cool. I think it's going to be very different, though, because to deal with all these kind of supernatural elements and then have scientists address them has been just a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, you do a great job,
Oh,
absolutely a great job. And it's been very intriguing for me as I was reading the book to learn as much as I learned while I was being entertained, unbelievably so.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I've got to get the other books because I got to see what the heck happened between Sumner and Emma before.
Oh, yeah. Boy, so many people.
Well, there's something going on here.
I'm having a problem because some of the readers are writing in with specific requests.
I want to know too.
I'm like, I gotta see. I kind of, she's young and she's in that stage of our lives where you're building your career, and so is he. So I'm trying to kind of bear that in mind. I remember how it was about 10 years ago for me. It was before I was a partner in a law firm, and it would have been hard to really catch my attention at that point. I was really building a career, so I've got her. She's
like a really in-your-face kind of guy, though.
Sumner?
Yeah.
He's
chasing her all over the place.
He's starting to be like, okay, I'm here. Please notice. But she's kind of focused on her career. She's out there getting it done. So.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing that's fun about that particular relationship is that he's saying you can't run forever, and she's saying I can run for a very long time.
It's like she's not promising him anything. And honestly, I think that's part of what's fun about writing her. She doesn't fit the usual molds, She's not going to just suddenly, roll over and die and settle down. She's got these other goals in her life. And you'll find out in the first book as to why she's a little bit hesitant to really get involved.
Yeah, I'm going to go pick them up and read them over the Thanksgiving holiday because I'm not doing shows on Thursday and Friday. So I'm going to have a good time with your books.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you'll find out in the first. It'll explain a little bit in the first why she is the way she is.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, let's move on. Criticism. You said it is looked at as I said this. Sorry, this was me. Looked at as the bane of every writer's life, but necessary. And I wanted you to share with authors, both published and unpublished, your philosophy on criticism, because mine is this. If it's constructive, it's invaluable. If it's vicious, there's no need.
Exactly. I think the problem with criticism right now is a lot of authors are dealing with, there's a lot of input on the internet. Anyone can say anything they want behind the veil of anonymity.
Yes.
And that can be a real problem, which is why a lot of times if I'm on Amazon, say, and I see the 1-star versus the 4-star, they put up the worst one and then they put up the best one.
Yes.
And a lot of times I always, as a lawyer, though, I used to do this, so maybe it's just me, but I used to think you have to consider the source. There are some people out there who are looking to be reviewers. They're looking to be professional reviewers, and they need to get a name out there, so they're using the Amazon platform. And if a book has all 4 stars or 5 stars or whatever, they need to go the opposite way to kind of get themselves noticed. And while it's not fair to the author, that's an agenda, and I think that's something that a lot of people who read the reviews don't realize is going on. Another thing is, for a while, I think Amazon once uncloaked the identities. Did you read that?
Yes, I did.
And uncloaked all the identities and found out that a lot of people writing those reviews were from opposing houses that were competitors. And,
oh, no.
Oh, yeah, and they had a lot of their employees writing them.
Because I write my reviews very publicly. Everything I do, if I'm going to say it on the internet, I'm going to say it to people's faces, too. I don't hide anything. And so when I do my reviews, and here's the interesting thing about reviewers, they somehow think they're no good unless they tear something apart.
But, yeah, and I have to say, when, Amazon, when they uncloaked those, all that came to light, it kind of gave me, it's kind of funny. I felt bad for everyone. It is hysterical. I felt kind of bad for everyone because I'm sure some poor, intern at some huge house was told, go on there and, give them all a bad review.
Tear them apart.
Yeah, tear them apart or you don't get your salary this week. But
right.
So now I realize that, I also now value a professional reviewer. Now I understand, like you say, a professional reviewer knows what they're talking about. I do think readers can review. The problem with Amazon is none of us know which of the readers are the ones that can and which can't, and it's a little bit difficult. And as a reader, I have not really put up any Amazon reviews. I'm an avid reader, but I haven't put up any Amazon reviews because it would be inappropriate for me anyhow as a writer. But And I would have to reveal my name. First of all, I don't think I could do it anonymously. But also, I just don't...
It wouldn't be right.
You know what? I do my reviews by telling my neighbors. Like, I'll say, I love this book, or my friends. I haven't been into the... But that's been a problem with critique lately. I think, though, with criticism and your readers, I mean, readers give valid input, and I don't ignore it. I do, though, listen to it. However, some of it is very personal, because we all know books are personal. Mm-hmm. And there are books my husband will rave about, and I basically don't like them. So that's another kind of thing, wake-up call for me, where I say, oh, wait a minute, not every story will hit every reader.
Well, and that's the beauty of the world, Jamie, or else there'd only be one successful author.
Right, and so I feel like that's okay. Now, constructive criticism, I have two valued readers that are in a writing group with me. They're both writing, they're hoping to get their manuscripts sold, and they're fantastic writers, and they are the ones who review my books before the editor gets it, or my agent. So my books go through a lot of vetting before they even get to the editor, although with Ludlum that was a little bit of an issue, because there's a very big confidentiality agreement with regard to the estate of Robert Ludlum. So in that case, I did not bring that to anyone else except the editor at the house. But generally, I have it vetted for several people. And I bring my worst chapters, like a chapter that I know is just not working, and I'll sit down with my friends and say, guys, help me. I can't get this to work, and it's been great. So I really do welcome criticism if it's constructive.
And that's the key. I remember my very first book, when it got published, the house sent me back, they sent it out to readers, and they sent me back the comments from those readers.
Right.
And I had written a romantic suspense.
Okay.
And they sent it to a fantasy reader,
Uh-oh.
They sent it to a sci-fi reader, and they sent it to a person who hates romance.
Oh, no. See, that's...
And I was like, okay, wait. Is this my ego, or is all this feedback crap?
I know. And, that's a real problem, too, because I think as readers, we all know what we like. And honestly, there's some types of books that I couldn't begin to critique, because I'm not even into the genre, so I wouldn't even know the tropes or the usual things. It would be very difficult. So, I mean, I just hope that if you like thrillers, people will read. I think that's why genre pinpointing is good, to say it's a thriller, it's a mystery, it's a romance. Yeah. And sci-fi I don't read, although I've read The Lightning Thief and some other books. And
those are more fantasy, though, than sci-fi.
See,
and fantasy is a little more doable.
I know nothing about what I'm talking about.
Well, I think you do. I think you're doing just fine. Now, do you have anything left to say about that, or should we move on to the next? Oh, well, you know what? We need to take a break. Holy cow, I'm 5 minutes over. You are just too fun to talk to, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Jamie Freveletti, the author of The Ninth Day.